In June 1940, France fell to the German war machine's onslaught, leaving Britain alone and vulnerable. With Operation Sea Lion, Hitler's proposed invasion of Britain already in the training stages, the nation's need to counter it was urgent. By the summer's end, construction of a number of lines of defence were already underway. Known as stop lines, they were intended to protect the capital and the industrial heartlands. These fortified stop lines were to utilise, where possible, natural features such as high ground and ridges. Railway cuttings and embankments were also incorporated, as were rivers and canals. This is the Basingstoke Canal, which ran from its namesake Hampshire town in the west to Byfleet in the east, and was an integral part of these ultimate defences. With the Kent coast a mere 20 miles from German-occupied France, Britain's position was perilous. The proposed stop lines were to comprise firstly of a number of fortified coastal positions along the majority of the coastline known as the coastal crust. Moving inland, and a number of local lines were devised, mostly linked to a final stop line known as the GHQ or General Headquarters Line. Essentially the last line of defence, it was heavily fortified with the instalment of pillboxes, gun emplacements, concrete obstacles, traps and ditches designed to delay or halt any German advance. These stretched, as can be seen on the map, from the Bristol Channel in the west to the Thames Estuary in the east, and as far as the Grampian Mountains in northeast Scotland. Moving to the Basingstoke Canal, I'm going to join it here, just west of Sandy Hill Bridge near the village of Winchfield, where we'll come across our first piece of wartime infrastructure. Well, I've just spotted the first piece of defensive infrastructure or architecture, and it's up there. It's a pillbox, probably what's known as a Type 22 pillbox. And that means it's hexagonal in shape, 6 sides, made of brick and concrete. We can't, well, I probably could, but I'm not going to try to get up there because I don't think it's worth it. I mean, you can see you've got a loophole this side. Let's just move a bit around this side. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but the doorway is just there. As I say, I'm not going to attempt to get inside it because I know that there's going to be plenty of others that I can have a look inside, and it's a bit obscured by trees. But that's our first piece of architecture, and one of many. The Type 22 is the most abundant pillbox that you'll see on these adventures, and we're just west of Sandy Hill Bridge, and this is where it starts to intensify now. And you can see a wide up pillbox has been placed there. Look, we're right on the corner, so that's looking west on a bend and looking east on a bend towards Sandy Hill Bridge. I've got a good field of fire. Obviously, remember, none of these trees would have been here then. They would have probably been cleared or hadn't grown then. I've also got to take into account that the Basingstoke Canal, although defended as a waterway, was pretty much derelict at the time in 1940. So it probably looks very different to what we got today. So let's move on up towards our next infrastructure. The bridge ahead of me is called Sprat's Hatch Bridge. It's a lovely name, isn't it? So this is absolutely fundamental, this area. This is where the GHQ line, General Headquarters, met the canal for the first time. It didn't join it, it just crossed it at this point. And this is where I'm going to come off the canal for a little bit, because there's some pieces of defence which need to be looked at. So there's our bridge heading south, but I'm going to head north for the moment and have a look up here. Now, before I investigate north, let's have a quick look at the GHQ line here at Sprat's Hatch Bridge. The main line of defence, it extended from the Bristol Channel eastwards along the Cannet and Avon Canal before turning just west at Reading and heading south to meet me here at Swan's Farm. And it's at this point the GHQ line is known as Line A, a reference to it being part of the outer London defences. GHQ Line B, just for reference, being part of the inner. And here at Sprat's Hatch Bridge, it crosses the canal and heads south, where we temporarily lose it before regaining it a bit further on. And it's here on the GHQ line that the defences intensify considerably. So while walking that short distance north from Sprat's Hatch Bridge, I've just noticed in the field over there, that's the pillbox that we saw, the first one from the canal, which is just down the bank on the left. So we continue. Now here just off Bagwell Lane is some northern defences of the GHQ line as we approach the canal. It's a former bullpen where the walls have been loopholed, but only large enough by the looks of things to poke a rifle through. But I suppose when your back's to the wall, it's better than nothing. I'm back to our bridge. This is Sprat's Hatch Bridge again. Remember, I came off the canal there, but I'm not going to go back on it just yet. I'm going to cross the canal. Let's just have a quick look over the side. That's quite beautiful, isn't it? That's looking west towards Odium and Greywell. So we're going to go south now over the bridge to find some more infrastructure. That's a bit gloopy, isn't it? Okay, we're still on the GHQ line. We're on the southern approaches now to the canal. And over here in this little copse, you can see another pillbox, another Type 22 by the looks of things. I think that's probably the best view we'll get. And this is as close as we can get because it's on private land, but you can see loophole there, and then there's the door, and you can clearly see the brick and concrete structure. We'll leave that behind. So that's the southern approach to the canal on the GHQ line. We'll now head north back to the canal. A quick return to the map and I'll plot these latest finds. So the loopholed wall at Swan's Farm is here to the north of the canal, while following the GHQ line south over the canal, the Type 22 pillbox can be seen here. I'm back on the canal now, heading east towards Crookham, and I've been looking at that dark patch in the trees. Could that be a concealed pillbox covered in vegetation? I think it is. In fact, look, yep, there's the wall, and what are those rods? They've got hooks on them. I think they're camouflage netting rods that still exist. It's pretty well concealed though, isn't it? I can't really see a great deal. And there's one corner there, you can see the brickwork, but other than that, it's totally concealed. And obviously, because it's on the southern bank, we can't get to it. We continue. So this next bridge is called Basingstoke Bridge. Look at that crack there. It's quite severe, isn't it? Anyway, as we go under it, as with Sprat's Hatch, a little bit further back to the west, we're going to come off the canal again because there's some more defences to look slightly off the canal, and this is getting gloopier by the step. So there's our bridge. It's got a crack in exactly the same place there as well. So if we turn north, let's go and see if we can find some more defences. So I'm coming up to, well, just north of Basley's Bridge, just there, and in the trees here. This is probably the closest we can get so far to a pillbox. Another Type 22, and if you look, you can see the camouflage netting rods on that one. Do you remember the one we saw on the opposite side of the canal? And I think there's some more camouflage netting rods there, look. And do you know what? This one looks accessible, so it'd be rude not to. Let's have a look. We can look straight away at this loophole, probably for a machine gun, with the shutter still in place. You can see the brickwork and then the concrete topping, and there's one of those camouflage netting rods. Let's go in. But the first thing is, look at the thickness of the walls. What's that, about 3 foot? It's relatively clean inside. It's a bit claustrophobic, but it's clean. So here's another one of our loopholes, still with some wire attached. Is that original? And these were considered shell proof. Now I know it's probably reinforced concrete, but I'm not sure I'd trust it to be shell proof. Bulletproof, definitely. So you can see some more. That's out towards the canal there. And then behind me we've got what's known as the blast wall, and it was divided into sections. So obviously if someone threw something nasty through there, so our Germans are attacking this pillbox, they threw a grenade or something, it would blow up, and it would be pretty bad news for anyone standing in this section. However, if you're standing in this section, or that one there, the chances are you're going to be relatively unscathed, until obviously someone throws some nasties through here. And it's, as I said, it's very clean in here. I don't know whether this has been repointed and cleaned up, but that is a great insight into our first pillbox. And I wonder, is this hole in the concrete, is this for a gun mounting? Would there be guns mounted there, like a Bren gun or something, rather than firing rifles? It's got them on all of them except that one, and that I would imagine is probably a machine gun. There's a bird's nest up there, look. So that I think is the machine gun, which would protect the entrance. And there's our camouflage netting rods that would have probably been, well, they would have been sticking up in the air, and the camouflage would have been on top, and obviously these trees weren't there at the time. There's another pillbox. Let's just get back over on the path. There's a second pillbox in this area, and it's somewhere along this line, probably over there in those trees, and that's private property, so we're not gonna go on there. So back to the canal. Let's take a look at a diagram of the Type 22 pillbox, or the FW3/22 to give it its official designation. And it's the most frequent pillbox that you're going to find on this section of the canal. Now this example is, as I said in the footage, allegedly shell-proof. Not that I'd really want to test that theory, but essentially designed for infantry to fire rifles or other handheld firearms. The main difference from the non-shell-proof versions are the thicker walls, normally measuring 3.5 to 4.5 feet thick. This diagram, however, differs slightly from the example that I've just explored, in that it omits the additional loophole to the right of the entrance. So if we look over there, we've got this large body of water on the opposite side of the canal, and that's called Tundry Pond. It also represents the point where the GHQ line returns to the canal. It comes in over the back. Now if we move slightly forward, I don't know if you can see about there, the concrete roof of a Type 22 pillbox. We're not going to get across to that one though, because that's properly private land over there. But there's also another pillbox up there, and we'll go and investigate that one. So here is that pillbox, and straight away you can see it's not the usual construction of the Type 22 that we've seen thus far. It's an entirely brick construction by the looks of things, although I think the roof is concrete. Yeah, it's probably reinforced concrete. You can see it's got the camouflage netting hooks still attached, and it's also built into the hillside, into the embankment. You can see some brickwork down there. I'm going to see if I can get down there, but let's have a look out here. So we've got a loophole facing west here. That's obviously facing along the canal, gives a field of fire along there. We got another one here that's facing directly out onto the canal and over Tundry Pond on the other side, and that doesn't give much field of fire, does it really? And then we got another one on the east there, obviously giving field of fire on the bend going that way. So let's see if we can get down there. There's a combination of mud, concrete and brick. How am I going to do this? So we got some brick and concrete entrance there. I'm looking on that side, you can see the hooks for the camouflage netting. Okay, I've made it. Now on this side you can see another loophole there. That's heading out north, that would be. So that's sort of like Copse land. And then we have our entrance. So we've got a concrete wall this side, brick that side. So let's go in. Oh God, look at that. That's pretty low. Can I get down that far? Of course I can. And then, so up these steps. So there's that north facing loophole. It doesn't look permanent. You haven't got much room here for a gun. This would be the main part of the pillbox. Look at all those snails and spiders, bit of calce on it. Look at all those snails. So here's our loopholes that we'd fire out of. Here's the blast wall again. Obviously any nasty stuff thrown in there, hopefully it would contain the explosion. It's not as big in here as I thought it would be. I thought this would be quite big, but it's pretty claustrophobic. Let's look out. So you can see out there, that is the towpath, and obviously during the war all this vegetation would have been cleared and you'd have had a good line of sight down the canal. That's a one facing over the canal, and then the one facing east, and that's heading towards Surrey and Dogmersfield Park and all that. And look, there's a little bat. I think it's dead. The variant pillbox adjacent to Tundry Pond does appear to be unique. The diagram shows the top half resembling the first three sides of the hexagonal Type 22, before going into a totally Heath Robinson design. The walls in this structure measure approximately 2 feet thick, a good 1 foot less than the Type 22, and probably therefore downgrading it from shell-proof to simply bulletproof. So getting in was relatively easy. getting out. So, downstairs. And look at this, we got, are they moths in winter? That's bizarre. Little chunky spider there. And I imagine it's probably a good roost for bats as well. Right, let's see if I can get down. And we're out.